One of the big takeaways of the new census data released recently was the confirmation in the data what many communities in New Hampshire have witnessed over the last decade, and that is an increasing racial and cultural diversity in the Granite State. The country is celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month right now, and today to talk about the changing face of New Hampshire, we are joined by Steve Negron, two-time Republican nominee for Congress, and State Rep Manny Aspitia, a Democrat. Steve, of course, a Republican. Thank you both for joining us. Both of you gentlemen hail from Nashua, and that's really one of the epicenters of New Hampshire's demographic change. Steve, what's it been like to witness that over the years?
Well, I moved here first, Adam, in 1989, and certainly when I went back to Colorado for my last assignment in the Air Force, and coming back home, it was just an explosion of the folks of the Latin community here in Nashua, which really was a very good thing to see. Having lived in Texas and lived in California, and seeing that kind of explosion there, but to see that kind of movement of the Hispanic community coming here to the Northeast, specifically our city of Nashua, was actually pretty cool, to be honest with you.
Representative Aspitia, you bring a more youthful viewpoint to this. What's your perspective on what's going on in Nashua and the state at large?
I mean, it's exciting. I mean, we went from, I think, a 75% jump in non-white residents in the last decade. And, Nashua itself has seen about, I think, 45% of the population of under 18 is actually non-white. So we're seeing that, Nashua is becoming the hub of diversity which already had been. So, we want to make sure that we're taking care and being able to help facilitate these folks who are coming in and be able to transition them so that they could be a part of our community that, and some of them have been here for quite a while. So they're trying to make sure that they feel welcome in our city.
And you serve in the legislature right now, Representative Aspitia, and of course, Steve, you were there in Concord yourself in the last decade. This state really prides itself on participatory democracy and making sure that the barrier to entry of state politics is open to basically anybody. Is the path to political power in New Hampshire sufficiently open to Latinos? And Steve, we'll start with you.
I think it is, but it could be bigger. Certainly, I think that there's such a predominance, especially here in Nashua and in Manchester, that you have to cultivate that belief. They have to want to believe that they do have a voice, and I think Manny would agree with me that that having folks like himself and myself in the state legislature, they know that there's at least single focal points to go to. But opening up the aperture and letting them know that they have a voice that needs to be heard outside of their local domicile, I think is important. I said, there's always ways to make it better, but you got to start somewhere. And I think that with Manny in there now, and when I was in there a couple of years ago, I think it really shows that we're having an opportunity to open up the gateway for people locally to get into the state politics.
What do you think, Representative Aspitia? Is that path to power sufficiently open for Latinos?
I mean, I think we definitely need to continue to work to make it easier for folks to be able to come in. I know that, it's tough with the pay, being only paid $200 for the term. And then also just working to try to reduce the barriers. And actually, one of the things I really want to work on this next year is voter access and bringing voter information and voter registration information in multiple languages, which could include Spanish, because we're seeing, like I said, our demographics are changing, and we want to make sure everyone has access to the ballot box. But definitely, like the Honorable Steve Negron said, we want to make sure that we make it as accessible for folks as possible, and that having both of us having served, it's a testament to that we can make that change.
How about facing down discrimination? Steve, I know you talked about this in your last campaign, dealing with certain instances. How much of a problem is racism in New Hampshire?
I don't think racism is as bad as in other places, to be honest with you. I just wanted to make a comment. At the last election, at the polls, there was a young man, elderly Hispanic, that really needed some help. And nobody could help him. I stepped out of line. I reached out to him. I actually took him to 2 different polling locations because we tried to find where he was at. When people see that we step outside of our comfort zone to help people that aren't of our ilk, and I think I see that all the time in Nashua. I spend a lot of time downtown, and I see a lot of cultural diversity down there. And I think, are we perfect? Clearly. No, but I think there's an opportunity here for us to get better and to promote everybody with whatever their background are and appreciate where they come from. And so is racism as a problem here in New Hampshire as in other places? I would say no, but there's always room for us to get better.
Representative Espitia, you had to deal with an incident earlier this year, some hate speech targeting you after you brought attention to some racist graffiti in Nashua. So these voices of hate are not the majority, but they do seem to be getting louder in some instances. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's terrifying. I think that we have a lot of work to do when it comes to addressing racism in our state, whether it's these white supremacists who are not just tagging, graffiti saying keep New England white, but also who are showing up to our school board meetings and protesting, and which, that has no place in our state. So we have a lot of work to do. I think the state needs to get a lot stronger. And I think on cracking down on this. And I think, the community itself, I think there was a really good response to it. I think folks wanted to, address it and say, that hate doesn't belong here in New Hampshire. So, I'm hoping that the state can take more action on this and to make sure that everyone can feel comfortable and feel welcome here.
Steve, what do you think? How can New Hampshire become more welcoming?
Well, certainly understanding and laying the foundation, that, all of us, like Manny and ourselves, and not just Hispanic, even though we're celebrating Hispanic Month, we should be celebrating everybody's nationality every day of the year. It doesn't have to be necessarily a specific month. And let people realize that, that this is a welcoming city. I decided to move here and retire here and start my family here. And I've had a lot of experiences being in the military. Then I lived all over this country and abroad. And I picked New Hampshire because I knew that me as a Hispanic, this was a place that I was welcomed. This was a place that welcomed my children here. And so that's one of the reasons I did choose New Hampshire, specifically Nashua, to raise my families, because I knew that this was a place that I wanted to raise my family.
Both of you are community members, but you're also politicians, so I'd like to ask you, who's going to harness the growing political power that Latinos bring to New Hampshire? Obviously, the Democrats want to win those over, but there's a there's a cultural conservatism sometimes in the Latino community that can lean Republican. So I'll start with you, Representative Espitia. How do you harness this new people power?
So I think it's interesting that you mentioned the cultural conservativeness. I think when I think of my family, the idea to immigrate from one country, where they had been brought up and had their whole lives to another is a radical idea. And I think, a lot of the focus has always been around immigration reform, which is something we desperately need to make. We have to make DACA recipients, give them a pathway to citizenship, and so many others, TP recipients, as well as our essential workers who helped us out through this pandemic. But we also focus on healthcare. We also, as our community struggles with diabetes and cardiovascular diseases. And finally, we really care about a strong public education and making sure that our kids have access, because we know that that's a stepping stone for our kids to be able to go to great colleges and have great careers. So we want to make sure that New Hampshire has strong public education, and I think that's a strong message for us that really resonates with voters, especially those in the Latino community.
Steve, what do you think? How do Republicans win over those Latino votes?
Sure, it's really it's a great question, but when I look at my family and the background of most of the Hispanic families that I know, there's so many conservative values that are out there. We are very strong family oriented. We are very pro-life. We are very oriented towards business. We're very oriented about being self-sufficient and not relying on things and people. So it's a sense of pride, the way that I was raised in my Hispanic background. And I think those are some values that I think we need to resonate with. I think we need to do a better job, clearly, here in the great state of New Hampshire, reaching out to those Hispanic voters and let them know that, that this is a situation where you can prosper. Look at Manny, look at myself, look at, tremendous amounts of Hispanics throughout American history that have been able to have the opportunity that it's been given to them. And I think that's what we need to find out is how do we bridge that gap and let them know that there's a path for them to be as successful as Manny and I and our families have been in this great country, in this great state.
All right, two-time congressional nominee Steve Negron and State Representative Manny Espitia, two trailblazers in New Hampshire. We appreciate your time today on Close Up.
Pasa buen día.